is Terry Bradshaw, quarterback, Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's 7:15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
This is baseball, Major League Baseball. And this is
ABC's Monday Night Baseball, live from Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts.
Looking. He's under the gun. He's tied. He throws. It is.
And the agony of defeat.
Frazier! Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!
This is the Past Our Prime podcast. It's May 27th, 1974. Nixon is still in the White House. The Sting is the top movie at the box office, and the top song is...
Don't say it because I have it for a trivia question.
Muskrat Love.
Too late, buddy.
Damn. What was popular in 1974?
Cher, Sonny and Cher.
Yes.
The Streak.
Ray Stevens' The Streak
Oh, really?
is the number one song.
So hopefully your guest isn't listening to it because
Okay.
Here he comes again. Fastest thing, who's that me? Ethel? Is that you, Ethel? Where do you think you're going? Is that me? You give us a beat.
actually, you know what? That was a question that we asked a previous guest.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it was. Do you not remember that great
Was
show?
that Curry Kirkpatrick?
No.
Curry was the one we asked about when the streaker came behind David Niven.
Yes.
So we have a little theme going here that I'd like to get away from. But
It's in every magazine.
it
There's
appears
every
to be.
issue.
Come on,
there's a streaker.
1974,
Yes.
people like to get naked and run.
Yeah,
What's wrong with that?
right.
know,
Who are we to judge, right?
74, I was listening to Sonny and Cher. I thought they'd be pretty high.
I'm Scott Johnston. To my left is Mark Mahoffman.
Oh, my
Is
God.
that a breakfast
God.
sandwich at McDonald's?
I'm like,
You're still thinking of the streak.
Can I have a Mark McHoffman,
Yeah, Mark
please?
Hoffman, yeah, a
And
double
a Big
with-
Mac.
no
Thank you.
pickles.
Mark's out of breath because he obviously streaked here all the way from Pacific Palisades,
That's
which is what he does. And to his left is Bill Mahoney, got that one,
Okay.
who, because he isn't a weirdo, drove here from Santa Clarita. I wanted
good exercise.
I wanted
It
to
is.
ask you guys, when you guys are en route here,
Yeah.
what do you guys listen to these days? Are you still sports talk radio guys, or is that past? I used to, live for sports talk radio, but I don't do it pretty often anymore.
I listen to music, and then if I do sports, I listen to the Dan Patrick Show because it's not just, in-your-face sports. It's fun. It's guests. They talk about movies, so I'll do that. But music, I listen to music all the way here today.
I get on XM Sirius and I'll listen to some sports, but my favorite thing actually is to shuttle between the so-called news stations, Fox, CNN, MSNBC. And I don't want to get political because that gets everyone, but I just find it so fascinating how you can listen and you get two different
Completely.
looks at what's going on. It's just like you're on two different planets.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying one's right and what's wrong. I'm going to stay neutral here. But it's just, to me, fascinating. It's like looking
horrible.
at well, it's like looking
There's nowhere to go now where you can trust the news.
But it's like looking at a baseball game and going, let's say one team won 4-0 and it was a two-hitter by the other pitcher. And one person says, man, that pitching was great for the team that won. And then the one's saying, no, the hitting was really good on the team that got shut out. But it was really good. That pitcher got lucky.
Yeah, I think it's even worse than that. I think it's like saying the Dodgers won 4-0 over the Braves, and the other people are like, no, the Braves won 4-0.
Yeah, well,
I've
and
got a
again,
phone-
I'm
They have
not
two
saying-
different outcomes.
I'm not saying who's right or wrong, but to me, it's so interesting the different perspectives that people have on some we're talking.
Mark, the phone board is lighting up. They seem to be quite angry with you right now.
I've just been canceled.
Let's take-
Okay,
yeah,
I'm leaving.
You're done.
Thank
Hops,
you.
Thank you, and
I'll see you
goodbye.
all later. It was nice
Mark
working with
McHoffman,
you.
Who'd you grow up listening to on Sports Talk? I can remember working at Bristol Farms, and I would go in the back, area where just doing like shelving and all that kind of stuff. And for me, it was Lee Hacksaw Hamilton.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That's my first guy. Here's what I know, and here's what you know. And then
Yes.
he do that
And he would say something like, breaking news out of Cincinnati.
Yeah.
The Reds have a pitcher that they're coveting. Who will it be? And you'd be like, oh my gosh, who are the Reds going to get? And it would be like,
Lee
some
once
guy
called,
you never
Pat
heard of.
Zachary is, yeah.
Lee once called when I was at Fox Sports News, and I picked up the phone, and that's his voice. He's not like faking it.
Right.
It's like, but what I listened to, KBC Radio was actually the first radio station that started sports talk. It was a news talk station, but they niched like a 2 or 3 hour window in the late afternoon. So I think Tommy Hawkins did the first one, I believe, there. And Tommy was such a great guy. I can't speak enough how wonderful Tommy was. They also had a guy, Superfan. But Jeff Witcher. They had a
I
bunch
remember
of people.
Bob Rowe.
Yeah.
He was the
I listened to, was it
Angels
Healy?
pregame guy.
But
Jim
yeah,
Healy.
Jim Healy.
Yeah, I used
he
to
was
listen to him.
funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, for 2 or 3 hours, like from 4 to 7 or whatever, they did a sports talk, and it was the first of the kind, and they started that in the early 70s.
Did you guys ever? I knew that I used to do this many years ago. I like the Angels, so after the game, I'd always listen to like Angels talk.
Oh, yeah.
And all it would do is get me mad because he'd be like, "You gotta trade."
Right.
They'd always trade like the best player for a
Right.
bunch of nothing.
Right,
You
right.
gotta get rid of him. You gotta take Trout and just give him now. And I'm thinking,
Right.
don't give him to the Yankees for that guy who's been dead for 3 years.
See, now you can listen to podcasts or anything. I listen to podcasts on my Spurs.
Yeah.
And the people that like the guys that do the podcast will just say, "Well, we need to trade for Trey Young," And I'm going, well, first of all, let's understand the concept. Just getting one guy doesn't make you a champion, especially if you're 20 people away. But also, he doesn't play defense. Do you understand he's making over $40 million a
That's
year
the
for the
thing.
next
They
3
never,
years?
now,
They don't factor that
especially in
into it.
Well, not as much in the baseball because there's no cap,
Yeah.
but with NFL and NBA, it all has to work, right?
Right.
It has to work. You have to take on contracts you don't want. You have to. So
Everything has to even out. But I do have one question. The other day I was reading an article. It was about Whitey Herzog dying. And Whitey Herzog was a great manager. And it said quotes around baseball. And one of the quotes was from Bruce Sutter.
the
closer.
He
relief
died.
closer.
He's been...
it was
Yes, it said quotes from around baseball. Whitey is one of the best managers I've ever had, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, but he's dead.
Are you sure he's dead?
Bruce
Yeah,
Sutter.
Bruce
is
Sutter's
dead.
dead.
Yes. No, I just want to clarify
Yes,
that for people.
but I'm saying,
well, maybe they just took
Can you
an
do-
old
do you-
quote.
can you do
should
that?
say-
Maybe it's
do you agree
Bruce-
with that?
Not without saying.
Because I forgot there was 2 guys and both of them had passed, and I thought,
Yeah, because
how would you're quoting a guy? If Whitey Herzog died last week, you're quoting a guy that passed away a couple of years ago. I just wondering.
Yeah,
if
Maybe
you
it's
guys,
an old
Abe
quote
Lincoln
or-
was a big fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
Herzog
you know?
as well.
Maybe he had
Yeah.
a son, Bruce Sutter Jr. And that was
It might be, but I mean,
No, you have to.
Maybe
to
preface
it's-
that, don't you?
Bruce Sutter, when he played for Whitey, said
Yes.
Yes.
he was.
And he did.
Yes.
They made it sound like they had gotten a hold of Bruce Sutter, and he was saying what a great
If
manager.
they did, man, they
Right,
got a
that
whole
would be
new
a
line
weird
of-
question to ask someone if they were deceased. And the
Yes.
first question was, Bruce, I know you've been dead for a few years. What do you think of Whitey Herzog as a manager?
Well, let me tell you, I could have saved him. No, that's a joke.
What's
you know?
you want to know what's heaven's like? No.
No.
Why did he hit and run in '83 with Tommy Herr? We're talking the May 27th, 74 issue with Jimmy Toy Cannon Wynn on the cover. The Dodgers were a great team that year, battling for the NL West division with the Big Red Machine. But before we get to that and the scorecard, we're going to start with a little pullout they had on the Indy 500, which was coming up that week 50 years ago, coming up here as well.
Well, I just
Basically, the history of that race. And go ahead, Mark.
Well, I was just going to say that attached to that Indy special report, it was something I want to talk about. It's a little thing in my hard copy of my magazine that you guys can't see, but it's right there.
Yeah.
And it says, get Sports Illustrated for only 17 cents a week. And you can get a minimum of 30 weeks. For instance, 35 weeks will only cost you $5.95.
Yeah.
Isn't that like one edition cost you like
Yeah.
today?
Oh,
Do Sports Illustrated, do they still do
Yeah,
physical
the
editions?
Sports Illustrated for kids. How much is that?
But I didn't know Sports
right.
Illustrated still does physical
no,
copies.
it doesn't.
Okay.
It only does digital.
But look, I
Okay.
could write my name in here. I should send it in. and
Let's
see what
do that.
happens.
Let's send one in. Give it to me. I'll send it in. I'll see what they say. I'll see if I get anything back.
It's the Time and Life building in Chicago.
If you
so-
can,
yeah.
if you can hand that, I'll write that and I'll send it in.
That'd be a funny.
I want to see
Yeah.
if they get back to me. I mean, you never know. Maybe I'll get a note saying, we've been gone for 40 years. Please leave.
But
me
what
alone."
happens if I rip it out of the magazine? It's devalue the magazine by
Are you
$1,000.
planning? Well, they've been
Yes.
sitting in your garage for 30 years that you would never have looked at if it wasn't for this show.
All right, you're getting it. You ready?
Thank you. I'm doing it.
I'm tearing it off.
And now there's some guy right there going,
There's
that
a
magazine was worth $25,000.
There's a Picasso painted behind it.
Right. Billy, you have anything of interest about
me,
this
I
Indy 500 thing?
I just didn't know that some of the drivers, they lose between 7 and 12 pounds in this race. I didn't know
gosh.
that. I mean, that's in a race. So I guess if you wanted, you're chubby, you
Why?
want to get down.
Well,
I guess just the heat.
sweating?
Yeah, sweating.
And the gear. You remember you're putting on layers of clothing, a helmet.
Yeah.
You're in this tiny compartment. Like right now, I have headphones on. They're
Yeah.
covering my ear. My ears are burning up. I might have to take them off.
You
'cause
mean the
they're burning
headphones cover your ears?
Up. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know it's surprising, huh? But anyway, but think about it. You got a helmet. You got some layers of clothing on. You're in a very tight spot.
They
The
probably
engine's
don't,
hot.
They probably
No.
don't have AC on
Yes.
the
No.
car because that would require more
Right.
of
Fuel.
the car.
Yeah. But no, and they said that, the cars will be hitting about 188 to 190 miles per hour on the straightaway.
Mhm.
We were talking about that yesterday. We were talking about some of the hardest things to do, Scott. And you had mentioned just, that
I know.
alone.
I know.
You're inches
right?
from a wall and inches from 15 other cars.
And you're going how fast?
190 miles an hour. Probably more nowadays,
Right,
considering
right.
the technology's different. But
Yeah.
My big regret in '96, I was covering UCLA in the tournament, and all you had to do was they played in Indianapolis. All you had to do was beat Princeton, and I was going to go the next day just to tour the Indy 500 track because I'd never been there before. And of course, they lost to Princeton. And
I drove a NASCAR in Vegas. They had the Dale Jarrett experience.
right.
I got 140.
Wow.
140. It is really fun. It's scary, though.
Oh,
And there's a guy in the car with you, so if you,
Yeah.
get a little too frisky,
right.
he puts it
What's
down.
the fastest you've ever driven a car, like on I-5 or anything like that?
A 100.
Yeah, I got up to 100.
But that was,
maybe.
I was much younger, and it was a wide open freeway in Orange
Yeah.
County, and it wasn't like it was,
Yeah,
3
and
I was scared.
you're going 100's
You are.
fast.
yeah,
I knew a girl I knew.
And 35 years ago, the cars we were in shouldn't have been
Shouldn't
going.
have been, yeah, because it was shaking. But I knew a girl that used to drive to Vegas. She had a Mustang. What do they used to call them? Not GT, the ones with the turbo. She said she'd do 170 to Vegas.
I
I
have a lot.
thought she goes, we should go to Vegas. I thought I'm not driving that fast. Nope,
I have a lot of people that get in a car with me, and they like
you're not a bad
grip.
driver.
Like my father-in-law, who raced motorcycles, I've talked about. He even gets nervous getting in the passenger side of the car.
Really?
Yeah, because apparently I'm a crazy driver.
Are you aggressively fast? Or?
Yeah, I'm probably a little aggressive, and then my daughter sometimes will call me going, "Why isn't the car not moving?" And I'm going, "Oh, crap! I gave her that."
Passed it on. Good.
Yeah. Nice moral values to teach your kids.
Yes.
Go, you idiot! What the hell?
Scorecard. They are up in arms about the college football schedule as they are moving traditional, or what they think of as traditional November games, such as Georgia Tech, Notre Dame, from November 9th to September 9th. Same with Tennessee versus UCLA. Who won that one, Mark?
I think that was a tie, but I can't remember. I want to say that was a tie. I'll have to look it up.
Oh,
Isn't that
geez.
scary that I would know that?
Yes, right. I was just kidding.
Nah.
They're concerned
everything,
because
man.
they'll now start practicing in August, meaning the season could go as long as 4.5 months, making it very hard for the student athlete. They don't even care to pretend about the student athlete anymore.
No. Well, the
There
student
is-
athletes are making more than the coaches are. I mean, they're making as much or more
There's
than
no
them.
such thing
no.
And you
as
know what?
the student athlete.
Yeah, what would these people think back then about games being played in August?
Right.
But
and
student
December?
athlete was a word back in our day because you
Oh,
really
yeah.
thought,
I had a buddy
you know,
of mine who mentioned, not too long ago, he goes, remember when there'd be a big bowl game and 3 players would be academically ineligible?
Yes,
That
yeah.
never happens
No.
anymore. These kids aren't smarter.
No.
They either just cheat better
The rules, yeah.
or they bend the rules or
Yes.
whatever. But when was the last time you heard a player be academically ineligible?
never.
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 Never happens
No,
anymore.
yeah, whatever
No.
happened to grades? Oh, by the way, I just looked it up. UCLA, Tennessee, September 7th, 1974, 17-17 tie.
My God, man,
That's
that's
scary.
impressive, Mark.
That's really
impressive. No,
scary.
that's impressive, man. I thought you were joking.
I think that was the phrase "get a life." No.
Speaking of streakers,
There we
Billy, a sign in a New York City bakery was all in on the streakers.
25% off for all streakers as long as you're in uniform.
Well, isn't it 100% off if you're streaking?
Yes.
They said 25.
Yeah, they only
Yeah,
get
you're right.
25.
25?
They only get 25%
Yeah.
off for taking 100% off. So
So we got our streaker story in as usual.
I think we've had it twice
Everyone-
already. We're not
yeah.
10 minutes in.
Yeah.
Wooing Walton. Boy, the ABA was desperate. They really were putting all their eggs in the basket trying to get Bill Walton to sign with the ABA.
Well, yeah, and Walton wanted to play on the West Coast, so they were willing to move a franchise back to Los Angeles. We'd lost the LA Stars. They also, it was interesting, they said that Portland and Philadelphia had a coin flip to see which NBA team would have the rights, and Portland won it. Had the Sixers won that coin toss, Walton very likely said he would have signed in the ABA instead.
Right. Yeah.
And then eventually he would have been in the NBA.
Yeah,
anyway.
they said, the ABA said, we'll do an expansion team in LA, and Walton was like, well, expansion team's going to stink, so I don't want that. And they're like, all right, we'll move Kentucky to LA. I think that we'll draft any of your friends that you want on your team. I mean, well, they offered him way more money.
But you think if you're Kentucky and they just go, that franchise you had, you're in LA now. I mean,
Could you imagine if there was an ABA and an NBA now with Victor Wembanyama and they were having a battle to see who would get it?
Right.
We'll move our team. We'll move the Kentucky Colonels to Paris. Come
San
on,
Antonio will be in Santa Clarita if that's what you want to do.
Right.
That takes us to our cover story. No Mirrors Now, Sir is the title. Jimmy Wynn is off to a torrid start with his new team in LA. Acquired in the offseason by the Dodgers from Houston for Claude Osteen. The Toy Cannon leads the NL in home runs, RBIs, runs, and walks while hitting .330. Now, I didn't know this, but 2 of his last 3 years in Houston, he was not good. He hit .203 in 1971 and .220 in 73. So the Dodgers were really kind of taking a chance here in picking up Jimmy Wynn from Houston, and it paid off big time.
I think it's just getting a change of scenery
Right.
seemed to do him well.
Yeah.
A lot of players need that.
In late May, he had already had 12 homers, 37 RBIs. It scored 32 runs. I mean, he was off to just a torrid start. And he finished the year with 32 homers and 108 RBIs.
Yeah, and 108 walks. He was one of those
That's right.
first guys back then that was really he didn't strike out a whole lot either for a big power guy. So
His were in the mid-90s, 100 toward the end of his career, which is right now Hall of Fame stats.
I thought
for
this
the
was
strikeout.
interesting. They were talked in the article about how Dodgers, great attendance. They averaged 27,000 a game. Now that would be just about 2.2 million, which would be the lowest Dodger total since I've been around.
There'd be a lot of upset Dodger
Right.
management people
Yeah.
if they were doing 27.
Yeah, they're averaging about 46, 47.
Yeah.
I think a couple years ago they almost made 4 million.
They're going to get it. They're going to get it.
And the
yeah,
tickets
eventually.
were pretty reasonable then,
Oh,
compared
yeah.
to there now.
Yeah.
But I mean, Wynn was just another piece. I mean, you had that incredible infield with Garvey and Lopes and Russell and Say, and you add now to the outfield, Wynn, and they just acquired Mike Marshall, who became a great closer with the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And so they were making all these moves that were all gelling at the same time.
Yeah, I read Ron Say's book, and he had said that he was Jimmy Wynn. You wouldn't expect it because he wasn't a big guy, but he just had that power that was just so surprising. He
Yeah,
said, "You just
5'9",
didn't see it."
170.
Yeah, because you just didn't see it, and all of a sudden he got up, and the ball just jumped off his bat.
They Houston tried to change his swing. His manager, Harry Walker, wanted him to choke up on the bat, go to the opposite field. Jimmy Wynn said, "No way, my swing was already grooved. I didn't get all those home runs being a punch and Judy hitter. I guess when you're short, managers have a tendency to mess with you more." Leo Durocher saw what Bobby Bonds was doing in the leadoff spot for the Giants and was like, oh, this guy's a power speed guy. Let's move him to the one hole. Wynn didn't like that, so then he gets to L.A. and Alston says, you're going to hit third, swing the bat however you like, and we'll leave you alone. And that approach worked. which was the way Alston got criticized for being that kind of guy, for not interfering, but he was more of just a player's coach. If it works, it works. And
Yeah, that's
it
what
was
we looked
working.
at when they had that that article on Alston a couple magazines ago. They talked about he was more hands off. He let the guys play.
Right.
So it's a perfect thing. With Jim Wynn, you go, hey man, we know what you can do. Get out there and just do it.
And this was the beginning of a great run for the Dodgers. Now, they went to the World Series in 74 and then in 77 and 78. But you got to remember, they're in the same division. The NL West had the Cincinnati Reds, the big red machine. So they had to compete with the Reds. And back then, you had to win your division to make the playoffs. There's no wild card team to get in.
Yeah, I was gonna say they won 95 games in 73, and then they got Wynn and Marshall, and that's how they ended up winning the division in 74.
One more thing about Wynn.
Yeah.
When the Dodgers traded him, did we know who they got for him?
Oh, when they traded him away?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, or who they
They
traded
got
to?
Dusty Baker.
Oh, is that
Oh,
right?
that's
right. Dusty
A
Baker.
younger version.
Yes, who ended up being the guy that when the Dodgers had the 430 home run hitters,
Yeah.
he got his last one off of James Rodney Richard. I remember listening to that game, and he was the one who became the first team to have 4 guys hit 30 home runs. Yeah.
So who was it? It was Garvey, Say, Baker, and Smith?
Yes. Yes.
Tommy John was on that Dodgers team, and one of the big reasons they got up to such a great start in 1974. He wins his first 5 games, giving up 4 runs in 42 innings of work. But by June 14th, he's 10-1 with a 2.63 ERA, and the Dodgers are cruising. But then, well, we'll get to that in a bit. But first, let's welcome Tommy John to the Past Our Prime podcast.
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. John. How are you today, my friend?
Yeah. How are you?
We're doing very well. We're doing very well. Tommy, the 73 Dodgers win 95 games and finish second in the NL West to the Big Red Machine. So they go out and they make 2 big off-season deals, acquiring Mike Marshall and Jimmy Wynn, and those 2 guys pushed you over the top. What do you remember about our cover boy, Toy Cannon was his nickname, Jimmy Wynn?
Well, he was a good teammate. It wasn't all about him. He played hard every game. He hit the ball. He fielded the ball. He ran the bases. He did all the things you're supposed to do. Plus, he was a good guy.
For a power hitter, he's not a big guy. He's not what you would look for. You know, he was a little guy.
Well, yeah, but if you can swing the bat and get some bat speed, you can hit the ball a long way, and that's what he did.
So you have Garvey, you have Say, Lopes, Wynn. Great team. But the strength of that team was its pitching, and you were off to a great start in 74. What did you guys think about where you were headed as you come out of the gate so strong?
We felt we were headed to the World Series again and going to win.
And you were right.
Yeah.
At least about getting there. So let's talk about you. You're 10-1, you're cruising. And then does your arm just kind of start hurting a little, or is it drastic? Is it just like, uh-oh, something's horribly wrong?
One pitch. Boom. Oh. There wasn't any a little pain, more pain, great pain. It was one pitch, great pain. And I threw one more pitch. I tells you how smart I am. I threw one pitch and the same pain. And I walked off the mound and told Walt Alston, I said, Walter, get somebody in. I've hurt my elbow. And I go to our trainer, Bill Bueller, and I said, Bill, call Dr. Jobe. My elbow's wacko. And he said, I've signaled for him. He'll meet you up in the clubhouse. And so I went up in the clubhouse, changed clothes, put dry clothes on, and he examined me. But there were players, media, TV, radio, newspaper guys wanting action, And Dr. Jobe, being the surgeon that he was, just, well, Tommy, why don't you come see me tomorrow? So I went to see him the next day, and he sent me to a hand specialist. And the hand specialist had seen a lot of torn ligaments and things like that. And his name was Herb Stark, and he was from Tennessee. And I go in, and they examine me. You know, back then there was no MRIs. You had X-rays. Mm. And he goes, "Boy, you sure done it." You done it. I said, "What I done?" And he said, "You messed that elbow up big time." And I said, well, I can't, you know. So I go back to see Dr. Jobe, and he laughed and he said, "So what do you think of Dr. Stark?" And I said, "He should have a TV show. He's funny." And so we get down, and he said, "Tommy, here's what I would do." This is Dr. Jobe talking. He said, "Just rest it." So then it comes down to, if you wait, you're not only going to miss this year, but you'll probably miss next year. So I didn't want that to happen. And I tried to pitch, couldn't do it. So we go in for another examination, and he said, we're going to have to operate. So, okay. You know, I didn't know an operation, how long is it going to be? It operated on my elbow to take bone chips out in 1972, my first year with the Dodgers. And he operates. Now, my elbow surgery will be 50 years, the 25th of September, 1974. My first child was born the 27th of September, 1974. So my daughter will be 50 years old right after my elbow surgery, and she'll be 50. But, you know, but that Dr. Jobe might have been one of the kind, most gentle person you have ever been around in your life.
When he explained to you the surgery, Tommy, how scared were you when he explained to you what the surgery entailed? What was your initial reaction to that?
I was not intimidated or whatever, because I had so much faith in Dr. Jobe that if he told me, "Tommy, go take your dog's poops and bury him back of second base and your elbow will be fine," I would have done it. Because
I'm glad he didn't do that.
Yeah, it wouldn't have, man. We had a German Shepherd named Bonnie Blue, and Bonnie kept on giving poops, and I kept on having rehabilitation, and Dr. Jobe kept on operating.
So is it true that Dr. Jobe said to you that it was about a 100-to-1 chance of even working when they proposed the surgery to you?
Well, that's what I asked him. I said, "What are my chances?" He said, "I've never really done this on a major league pitcher, but he said, I've done a lot of ligament transplants in polio patients." And I said, "Give me some odds." And he said, "Yeah, 1 in 100, 2 in 100. I said, "Okay."
It's better than 0 in 100.
So they're saying there is a chance.
All I wanted is that little bitty chance to pitch again, because I knew what I could do.
While you were recovering, isn't there a passage, like a Luke passage, you used to sort of get you by?
Yes, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And that's all I wanted, was a chance. Just give me a chance. You give me a chance and I'll do my job. Dr. Jobe did his. Now I'll do mine.
Okay, so Tommy, you had the surgery. take me through the process. I mean, it's a lengthy process. There had to be highs and there had to be lows. Where are you, throughout this mentally? Not necessarily just physically, but how are you dealing with it mentally, trying to get back on the mound?
I dealt. I knew that it was going to be long. I knew it was going to be hard. I knew it was going to be tough, and I was ready for it. I wanted the ball in my court.
What was it like when you started getting close, Tommy, and you were like, my goodness, I'm starting to feel a little bit like pre-surgery Tommy John?
Well, when we went to spring training in 1975, there's a wall down at Dodger Town. And I would get 6 baseballs, put them in a little plastic bucket. I carried it out there every morning. And I took those balls and I threw against that wall, and the ball would hit and rebound back to me. And I would throw like that. I didn't pitch. I threw. And we got ready to go back to Dodger Stadium to start the season. And our bullpen catcher was a guy named Mark Cressy. And every day, Mark would be out there, and I'd get my baseballs, go out to the bullpen at Dodger Stadium or on the road or whatever, and I would throw. I worked out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I took Sunday off.
So, Tommy, at what point in 1975, at the beginning, did you all of a sudden start feeling, I'm on my way to recovery and I think I'll be able to pitch in a game relatively soon?
Well, I knew it was not going to be relatively soon. It was going to be, I threw, they sent me over to Arizona for the Arizona Fall League, and I pitched in about 6 or 7 games there. And my arm felt good, and I threw the ball pretty good. And we're on our way back home, and I told our trainer, Bill Bueller, I said, Billy, I threw the ball pretty good. I said, I think I'm on my way back. And he said, well, we'll see next year. So next year was 76. And, the thing was, from 1976 until 1989, I started, I don't know how many games. I never missed a start.
Wow.
My arm felt good. I pitched out of the bullpen. I started games. I did all this, and Dr. Jobe was a great surgeon, but I had faith in him. I had confidence in him, and I knew that I was going to be back pitching again.
Did you feel you were a better pitcher after the surgery, or you just learned to do different things after the surgery?
I threw the same stuff. I was a 2-pitch pitcher for all those years. I threw a sinker and I threw a curveball. That's what I threw. And when I was coming back from the surgery and I'm throwing in the bullpen to Mark Cressy, I threw sinkers, I threw curveballs. And that was me. I was not a 10-pitch pitcher or whatever. And in fact, my last year, 1989, I was learning a changeup.
So you go back, I think your first start back after the injury is on the 16th of April versus the Braves. When you face that first batter, Roland Office, what's going through your mind? How exciting is it for you just to be back out there, ball in your hand, in uniform, in a major league game?
It's what I wanted to do. And it's what we were looking to do. And I knew there are going to be good games, there are going to be bad games. But I wanted the bad games to be, not bad, but bad where you maybe have a chance to win. And that's what I wanted, to pitch the Dodgers into position to where they have a chance to win a ball game.
You know, Tommy, they could have called it the Dr. Frank Jobe surgery, but instead it's known as the Tommy John surgery. Did you know the impact your name would have on the game of baseball? And if not then, when did you realize that?
Well, I knew that they should have called it the Dr. Frank Jobe surgery, but Dr. Jobe, being the kind of person that he was, would not have any part of that. So he, he was there and he did his job. And that's what I told him. I said, Dr. Jobe, if you do your job, I will more than do my job. That was our deal that we had with each other.
Well, you certainly held up your end of the deal, because prior to the surgery, you never had won 20 games in a season. And 3 of the 4 years after the surgery, you win 80 games over a 4-year period. Were you surprised that you were not only back, but you were better than ever?
I knew that I could pitch, and I knew I wanted to pitch, and I wanted to get back out there and do what I'd been doing all these years in baseball. And I just wanted a chance, and Dr. Jobe gave me that chance. God bless him.
Do you think back to people like Sandy Koufax, who never had the opportunity to have something like Tommy John surgery and had to cut his career short, and maybe how blessed you were that you were able to extend it?
Well, Dr. Jobe told me, he said, the more I look back on this, the more I think that Sandy Koufax needed Tommy John surgery. And I said, well, Koufax, being the good Jewish ball player that he is, would have trademarked the name, and I would have ended up having Sandy Koufax surgery.
That is true. That is true.
But no, Tommy, I was looking over some of your stats after you came back. In the 5 years after your surgery, I think it was 164 starts, 57 complete games, 14 shutouts, almost 1,200 innings. Then they gave you a nickname. I've read in my old magazines of you, the Bionic Man. Did you like that nickname?
I had no choice in naming that. I was there, and like you said, it should have been the Dr. Frank Jobe surgery. But here's how that came about. The name of the surgery is the medial collateral ligament replacement surgery with the palmaris longus tendon.
Yeah.
Jobe said, he said, I just got tired of saying that. So I said, the surgery I did on Tommy John. And the doctors went, oh, yeah, okay, yeah. And then they're down the road, Tommy John surgery. And that's how it came to be Tommy John surgery.
That makes a lot of sense to
Yeah.
a layman like
Yes.
me.
I prefer that name.
Well, it'd be easier.
Tommy, let's get to one of the reasons we're talking with you today, and that is only one pitcher has more wins than you and is not in the Hall of Fame, and that is Roger Clemens with 354, and we know why he is not in. You have 288 wins, and I'm sure you've heard this many times, but it's beyond ironic that if you don't have Tommy John surgery, then you have the 300 wins, which we all know is the shoe-in and the golden ticket to Cooperstown. How
well,
much? Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's it's just one of those things that like I said, I've got 288 wins, but the thing that is really frightening is I have 188 no decisions in all the years I pitched. So that's astounding that
Yeah, plus 25 blown saves.
Exactly.
Yep. Billy had those written. We were getting to there. Yeah. I mean, so what do we need to do to help you rectify this, what we see as an injustice?
Nah, it is what it is. And I can't do anything differently. and I won't do anything differently. So, it is what it is.
That being said, you're not only for the 288 wins, but as we just mentioned, you can't watch a baseball game without having your name come up. I mean, you have had an impact on this game like very few people that can say they had an impact on the game. Look at all the people that have come back from the surgery you first had, and I hate to say it, but the courage to do. You could have said, I'm not doing that. I've had a good career. You had pitched for over 10 years already, but you decided to take the chance, and it has helped hundreds and hundreds, thousands, even if you're talking high school and college kids. So
Yeah.
your off the field accomplishments might even be more impressive than your on field accomplishment.
Well, I know I wanted the chance to pitch, and Dr. Jobe gave me that chance, and I was going to take advantage of it. And I pitched as long as I could.
Do you think the fact that you were a pretty good athlete also helped in the recovery? If I'm not mistaken, did you play some basketball too? Didn't you get scholarship offers to play college basketball?
Yeah, I got about 50 scholarship offers for basketball out of high school, and I had one in baseball.
Hey, Tommy, what does that mean to have your hometown, Terre Haute, doing a night for you?
Terre Haute is not a big town, but gosh darn it, I have so many good friends there, and all that it's home, and it's where my mom and dad are buried, and I would love to go to the house, 2-bedroom, 1 bath. and my dad built it, and I just would like to have my wife see the inside and see where I was raised. And I mean, the rooms are so small and all that, but you know what? It was home, and Mom made it even a nicer home. And my dad, whatever I needed sport-wise, we would put in the backyard. Yeah. My dad told me one, he said, Tom, whatever you do in baseball, whether you get in the Hall of Fame or you get released after the first week, remember this: you will forever be, and you will only be, Tommy John from Terre Haute, Indiana. Live up to it.
So we do a little segment in here, trivia segment called 50-50. We look back 50 years, and I ask you a question, and you got a 50% chance of getting it, okay? It's really easy.
50-50?
50-50, okay? This is like a pulp culture question. 50 years ago, there was a television series called The Brady Bunch, and it was ending its 5-year run on ABC.
Yeah.
True or, okay, false, a Dodger pitcher made a cameo on the show and actually was the central topic of the show. Was it A, Don Drysdale, or B, Sandy Koufax? 50-50 shot.
I would say it was Drysdale.
And you are so right. I wish I was saying you're going to win a big prize. Like, accolades there.
Hey, Tommy, I want to thank you for giving us your time and talking back about that unbelievable experience that you went through that, like I said, has benefited countless people that you'll never meet. A kid in high school and a kid in college that are having these procedures done thanks to the courage that you had 50 years ago. So thank you, my friend. Appreciate it very much. We will tell the people about your Facebook group and everything we can.
And his podcast.
And your podcast.
Yep.
So, and thank you for coming on ours. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye now.
Yeah, and so just so you know, there's going to be a Tommy John night in Terre Haute on June 25th. So if you're interested, get out there. What an amazing, amazing man. Amazing pitcher, amazing man. But if you're interested in more Tommy John, there's a Facebook group. It's called Tommy John Cooperstown. And this is what you got. I've been listening to this. He has a podcast called Rubbing Elbows with Tommy John. His most recent guests, Bucky Dent, Steve Garvey, Reggie Jackson, Johnny Bench. So check all that out. It is some great stuff.
I wouldn't mind a couple of those guests.
I know. I looked at that and I thought, how's he getting him? And then I thought, oh, he's Tommy John. I'm not.
Right.
You know,
we just pretend we're Tommy.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. He's an endearing guy.
Yeah.
Likable.
Yep.
Good. I mean, you know, was a stalwart for those Dodger teams before he gets hurt. Comes back, he's just as good, better.
Yeah.
Then goes to New York. You know, how about the fact that he tells us in his 26th season in baseball, I'm going to learn to change up.
And it's fun in the sporting news here. Back in '77, they asked him how long he wants to play after the surgery. He goes, "I'd like to at least try to play 20 years." Went 6 more, man.
Yeah, 26 years.
But the real crime is he's not on the Hall of Fame.
That's
and basically he should be in the Hall of Fame just because of the surgery. You don't even have to talk about. But if you took that out and just did his playing career, he should be in it. But you combine the two, how he's not in it, it doesn't make any sense.
You know, and then you see the other guys that are comps. You know, Jim Cott, Bert Blyleven. His numbers are right there with them. And once again, if 300 wins is the milestone you need to reach, then the fact that in the prime of his career he misses a year and a half because he has an iconic procedure done that is named after him, that, as you just said, hundreds and hundreds of pitchers go through this, and he's 12 wins short, it just seems like this needs to be remedied.
I think he's got more wins than Burt Blyleven, who's right behind him.
Right.
I mean, what is it? There's no difference here. And you look, and where are pitchers most known for? Not just their wins, it's their postseason. Tommy John had a 2.67 ERA in the World Series. He was 2-1 record. In League Championship Series, it was 4-1, 2.08. So even when the pressure was on, that guy came to pitch. How is he not in the Hall of Fame? That's a joke. I mean, that's nothing against some of the guys who've been elected recently, but Tommy John is in that group of guys.
No argument from me. Way to go, Tommy. Well, we're rooting for you.
Yep.
All right, let's move on. Clearing up a muddied situation. This is the Preakness a couple of weeks after Cannonade won the Derby. That the big story with the Derby was all those horses. The Preakness had already said, we're not going through that. If it gets too big, we'll have 2 races. That wasn't necessary. The winner was Little Current and ran in a really fast time. I think the 3rd fastest Preakness time ever. On Miguel Rivera was the jockey, another Puerto Rican, just like Angel Cordero Jr., who won the Kentucky Derby a few weeks ago. He invited Miguel to come to the Preakness with him and his wife. Angel did. And then when they got to their hotel, there was no hotel room for Rivera. So he had to sleep on a cot in a banquet hall, but didn't matter. Still won the Preakness. After which, Cordero said, whichever way it goes in the Belmont, right now it's 2 down, 1 to go for a Triple Crown for Puerto Rico. So
I was just taking the fact that Judger was supposed to be this horse that everyone thought was the best one. He finished 8th in this race.
Yeah.
So and he didn't do that well in the Kentucky Derby. Came back and 8th.
Yeah. Well, that's why it's gambling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah, talk about gambling. Randy Moss.
Yeah.
What he picked? He said, keep your eye on just a touch.
Yeah, you could see him really well.
He was in last.
Yes.
And I told her, Randy Moss said it. I thought I'm not joking. That is 9 straight races I've picked that the horse finished in last and 1 got shot. So,
they should give out money for last place horses that you could predict.
Especially since I pick them.
Yeah.
Jubilation and a cup in Philly. Here we go. The Sixers. The Flyers are champions of the Stanley Cup. Bruins dominate Game 6 early, but Rick McCleish scores a power play goal to make it 1-0. And our guest from the May 6th Past Our Prime podcast, Conn Smythe winner Bernie Parent, makes it stand up. The Flyers are Stanley Cup champions.
Yep, and there's a nice picture of Bernie with Bobby Clark holding up the cup in the magazine.
Yeah.
I love this quote. They were like, how do we stop Bobby Orr? Everyone just lets Bobby Orr do his thing. And they said, we're a hitting team, said head coach Fred Sherrill, but we've always made the mistake of treating Orr and Esposito as untouchables. As a result, they have killed us, particularly Orr. The referees think that Orr is God. He's not God, and we've got to stop treating him like God. So Philadelphia general manager Keith Allen taped this onto his suitcase. Orr's not God. Hit him. So that was the game plan. I don't know if they stopped Orr, but they were able to stop the Bees.
Well, I
in
like the fact
6.
Bobby Clark, they said he nullified Esposito by hawking him relentlessly, hitting him into the boards, and embarrassing him almost to the point of ridicule by winning 48 of their 66 faceoffs in the first 3 games. So they learned how to handle Orr and Esposito, man.
Right, they controlled the puck.
They did.
I just love Perron talking about the fact at the end of Game 6 when they're up 1-0 with 4 seconds left, he starts looking at the scoreboard, not noticing that shot was made from across ice.
Right.
And he says, "Thank God it didn't go in the net."
That would be shown every year if that puck had gone in.
Yeah.
Every year during the final, they'd be going, and this back, and Bernie Perron would have to answer that every year.
Without reservation, a win 2-1-1. Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah, and you
this
can't
is
say that today.
about the Colonial
right
golf tournament, and a kid by the name of Rod Curl wins. As Sports Illustrated wrote 50 years ago, he is what we now refer to as Native American. Back then, he was an Indian.
Yeah.
And Sports Illustrated wrote, Big Chief, little name, shoot many birdies. Dine on much golden bear. Kill white man's golf course. Buy much firewater with $50,000.
Could not do that today.
Back in the day, I'm not going to lie, I was a kid in those days, so we did that whether when you play Cowboys and Indians.
Yeah.
You know, me smoking peace pipe, that was our thing.
Sure.
You know, but you look back at it now and you just sort of, cringe like, wow, that,
I mean,
was bad.
He thought it was hysterical.
He did, yeah.
Rod Curl did. He didn't seem to mind. He's a talkative 5'5" guy who had never won before. He's part of the Win 2 Indians from Northern California. Once again, as Sports Illustrated said, 3/4 Win 2, 1/4 golfer. Didn't learn to play golf till he was 19, which is kind of unbelievable. That's pretty late to now be winning major tournaments like the Colonial.
But sorry.
And I think it was his only win on the tour.
That's what I was going to say. It's his only win. But you could walk into any bar because who finished in second in that? Jack Nicklaus.
Jack Nicklaus.
So anywhere, even though you only won one, you would say, I beat the Golden Bear.
Yeah. And beat him, like, I think Nicklaus was leading, like,
Yes.
through 16,
Yes.
I mean, they were neck and neck.
Yep.
Ain't this great, Curl said. First we had the Mex, Lee Trevino, then we had the Black, my buddy Lee Elder, now we got the Indian. So it's just a rainbow coalition known as the PGA.
Wow.
There's an article next on NHL scouts. Boy, they have a tough go of it, don't they, Bill?
Yes, they do. Just, they stay in ramshackle places, they have to go to the games that no one wants to go to, just to get that one player that you'll get no credit for finding him. And he did the Jim Sutherland, which is the article's about. He found a player named Larry Patey. Larry Patey was drafted 130th by the California Golden Seals. He won the Western League Rookie of the Year award. He played in over 600 NHL games, but no one would know that Jim Sutherland, who, how many days he spent at home?
They said in 10 weeks he spent 8 hours at home.
And he could get It's just like, hey man, thanks. Go find your next one. It's just anyone that does that job, you've just gotta truly love hockey at any level.
Yep. This week in baseball, David Clyde got a complete game win for the Rangers over the Angels. He was the first high school pitcher ever selected #1 overall. There have been 2 others, but he is the only one of the 3 to make it to the majors, Brian Taylor and Brady Aiken being the other 2. Many believe he was rushed to the bigs for attendance purposes. The Rangers were not drawing at all, having just moved from Washington to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They would average about 6,000 fans a game, but when Clyde pitched, there would be near sellouts. In 74, he won his first few games, then struggled.
He didn't win another game after May 15th.
Right.
He basically had 3 complete games by May 15th, didn't win another game.
Yeah.
Mark actually mentioned that in one of the last shows.
Arm injuries.
Yeah.
He goes 18-33 with a 4.63 ERA in his career before ending it in 1979, and is known as one of the flameouts in all of baseball. But if you look at David Clyde's high school numbers, you can see why he was taken so high, number 1 overall. His senior year, he was 18-0. In 148 innings pitched, he gave up 3 earned runs. He had 5 no-hitters. He had more no-hitters than he gave up earned runs. So he was just a phenom. But Billy Martin and the Rangers ownership basically brought up this 18-year-old kid. And if you're 18, that's one thing that they never talk about. An 18-year-old kid is not likely to say, you know what, my arm hurts a little bit.
But hadn't he recently just gone to the prom or something? I thought it was like a few weeks after he actually was in prom, and now he's out throwing for the Rangers.
Complete games.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So obviously the talent was there.
Yes.
Obviously.
Right.
But his arm didn't
But if
last.
they gave him, let's say just a year in the minor leagues, just to sort of iron a couple things out, he may have lasted longer in the big leagues. They just rushed him.
Yep. I thought this was funny. Minnesota manager Frank Quilici successfully discarded book strategy twice to the chagrin of purists. He was ahead of his time because both of the moves he made are now considered to be the norm. First, he had outfielder Larry Heisel swing away in an apparent bunt situation, and he hit a 2-run homer to give the Twins a 2-1 lead. Then he decided not to wait for starter Joe Decker to get into trouble. Instead, he brought in his closer to start the 9th inning, up 2-1, and Bill Kemble gets the save. So those are both things that nobody bunts anymore, and closers always start the 9th inning now. So,
there is no more bunting.
No.
White Sox used to work on that every spring, that little place, and now it's gone.
Yeah.
The only way you bunt now is if you have a really crappy 9-hole hitter who's, okay, let me get the runner over to second or third because I'm bad. But bunting's great. I mean,
I agree.
You get a guy like Elliot De La Cruz with all that speed.
Yep.
I'd be telling him, I know you got power, but you strike out a lot. Chop the ball or lay down a few bunts, because it's like a triple then. You could steal a couple bases.
But that's what Rod Carew used to do. He used to do those beautiful bunts, and he made it on base. It's a lost art.
Yeah, Brett Butler, man.
God, that's right. That's right. I just want to talk about the AL with the Royals.
Yeah.
8 errors in one game. 8. And they also, in one inning, they got caught stealing 3 times. That was their outs.
Yeah.
I just thought, one, you don't hear that, and then 8 errors.
Yeah,
that's
they
a
were,
major league team, and I wasn't
playing.
playing.
Good team.
They were. When I read that, I thought, I actually looked it up, and poor Hal McRae had to have 2 errors himself. But they also had Al Callens play third base at one point too, which was an error for him. They were just moving guys around.
Yeah, Cowens was an outfielder.
He sure was.
Right?
He sure was.
Interesting. There was a long article about sumo wrestlers, which is about as close to streaking as you can get in sport form. Billy, did you ever take up sumo wrestling?
Yeah, I had very much considered it. I knew that being 150 pounds, I was right there. Heavyweight. Heavyweight. Come on, man. No, they just, the stuff they have to go through. They bleed all the time. There's divisions you have to go in, and people at the upper divisions get better food, get better everything, and you're apprenticing at the smaller divisions so you can actually move up. It's just, you can, I just looking over that article, I just kept thinking tripping, slapping, and butting are permitted. But no punching, strangling, eye poking, or grabbing the genitals. You can't do that. That's considered impolite. I'm not saying, so sumo wrestling, evidently everything goes, but these guys that get into it, and there was an American that was in it, they will never give it up. It's considered an honor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's an honor to be a sumo wrestler. I remember.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think I'm going to dedicate myself now. I'm going to gain 150 pounds.
Yeah.
And I am going to, wear nothing but like a lion cloth around my, you know what parts, and I will start training.
And I'm going to lose 20 pounds so that I can.
He can give that to you.
Be the same.
Yes.
We can be the same weight.
And I'm already a wrestler, so I don't have to worry about it.
Pushing you around.
Let's wrap this up with For the Record. The Houston Aeros won their version of the Stanley Cup thanks to Gordie Howe and his sons. They swept Chicago to win the Avco Cup. whatever that is.
That was
It used to be a
WHA,
theater in
yeah.
Westwood I worked at. But
Gordie Howe only played another 10, 15 years after that. So,
Yeah.
my God.
Right. It was a great way to end Howe's comeback season, and we talked at length about Howe back on the March 11th episode with longtime Hurricanes play-by-play man Chuck Caton, who had some great stories about the legendary Howe from their one season together way back in '79. Like you said, Bill, he still played another 15
I
years
know.
or so
Yeah,
after
yeah.
that. So it was crazy. That started a friendship that only ended when Howe died. Chuck was a pallbearer for that. That's how close they were. So go back and check that out. The other thing I saw that I really liked was Jack McCloskey resigned as head coach of the Portland Trailblazers, citing irreconcilable differences. I think a record of 48 and 116 and 2 straight last place finishes also might have had something to do with it, but maybe it was just the irreconcilable differences. So, 19th hole, Billy, what do you got?
Just about the young lady was upset about the boy or girl being on a Little League team, and one guy wrote, "Have you ever noticed the best player on Charlie Brown's team is? It's not a boy or girl. It's his dog." So, so true.
That is true. Or someone else wrote in, I believe it was Mary Mannix, said that Charlie Brown had girls on his team and he's never won a game. True. But if you look across town, you'll see a team that always wins. This team's manager and star player, Peppermint Patty.
there you go.
So maybe
That's
don't go
great. Yeah.
using Charlie Brown.
References.
Yeah. So that's going to wrap up this May 27th, 1974 issue of Sports Illustrated. Jimmy, Toy Cannon Win, one of the great nicknames of all time, graces the cover. Want to thank our guest, Tommy John. Man, unbelievable what he's gone through. Hope Cooperstown comes calling sooner rather than later.
That's a crime he's not in.
Yes, it
It's
deserves
a
it.
crime, man.
Long overdue.
He would easily have had over 300 wins if it wasn't for the injury, you know?
And
Then
also
the
the,
injury
fact
gave
that
him
188 no decisions he got,
Right,
too. You take
right.
some of those, too.
No
Yeah.
question. No question. Hall of Famer on and off the field. For Bill, for Mark, for Jeremy, I'm Scott. We're past our prime.